I'm Nazir Afzal. I was the Chief Crown Prosecutor and currently I'm Chancellor of the University of Manchester, but I was the Chair of the Independent Review of Culture into London Fire Brigade. Since the last conference, obviously my review of London Fire Brigade has been published. Additionally, people up and down the country have been sharing their concerns and their thoughts about the culture in the fire service nationally. And so I'm going to take stock really as to where we are 6 months on from my review and what more needs to be done around the culture within not just the fire service, but in services generally. Well, we need to know what the problems are before we can try and fix them. And so what my report was about was amplifying the voices of staff within fire services, not just in London, but across the country, in the hope that their concerns, their ideas, their fears and opportunities will be shared, and ultimately that they will have a workforce that is a workplace that is safe for them. As it currently stands, up and down the country, we've identified workplaces that aren't safe, that are toxic, where there's a decency deficit, where people are not treated with the respect that they deserve. And so the expectation, not just mine, but the expectation of fire service staff is that senior leaders will respond, and that response will involve engaging with their staff, listening to their concerns, and responding quickly so that those workplaces can be much, much safer. When the report was published, it created a lot of national publicity. It led to a number of other forces examining themselves, some of them being forced to do so because of media coverage. Then there was a National Fire Chiefs meeting at which I spoke earlier this year. The National Fire Chiefs have developing an action plan. So evidently, at the very highest levels, there's a real need to respond and a desire to respond, and they have identified what they need to do. What we have to do and what you have to do within the fire service is to hold their feet to the fire to make sure that they act upon what they say they will do. I've worked with AFSA for several years, and I've always been impressed by the network. It has a social element, obviously, but we have strength in numbers. And what AFSA has is the ability to engage with people who otherwise would not feel engaged. It acts as a voice for minority communities within the fire service, but it does more than that. It provides ideas. It provides challenge. It ultimately makes the workplace safer. So I have an enormous amount of time, and for AFSA, I think it does great work, and I hope it continues and flourishes in the future. Well, I've written a book called The Race to the Top, which is an examination of racism at senior levels in every part of British society. So what's happening in the fire service is not unusual, unfortunately. It happens in law, it happens in business, it happens in health. It happens in every environment that we call Britain. And what I hope the book has done is generated conversations everywhere. And what I hope to be able to do now is to keep an eye on what progress is being made, also provide sufficient challenge, build a momentum really, so that workplaces everywhere feel safer. It is the battle of our times, and I feel really strange saying this, but we should not be where we are in 2023. There have been 25 years of reports, 50 years of reports going back to the top reports after the 81 riots, talking about racism, talking about how people need to be treated fairly and equally, and we have made very little progress. And it's easy to say, well, it takes time, or 50 years is long enough. And today, when we're recording this, is the 75th anniversary of the first arrival of African Caribbeans on the Windrush boat. So 75 years, 50 years, 60 years, we've been here for long enough to be able to feel equal, and unfortunately many of us don't.